The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of this weekend's BYU football and the new look Big 12 Conference. First and 12 is sponsored by Macy's Grocery Store. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone.
Can you believe how far into the season we are now? Another edition of First and 12, your Big 12 absolute breakdown every week right here. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry. Mitch, of course, is in West Virginia still, trapped in West Virginia. There's probably some symbolism in there, probably how BYU fans feel right now after their loss last night 37-7 to the West Virginia Mountaineers.
I'm in a glass case of moonshine right now.
I just imagine you in your hotel room today, some guy with just a handful of teeth peeking up over your window going, "Yeah, thanks for coming to West Virginia." And just
take me home,
hey,
country road.
I'm your Uber driver. And you're like, no. Mitch, we got tons to get into, of course, and probably one of our funnest segments of the week. And one, obviously, we have to kind of try to figure out as soon as everything goes final on Saturday nights and get into our Sunday show here is to figure out what the power rankings are in the Big 12. So let's jump in right there.
The Big 12 Power Rankings Big Board. A weekly rank of all 12 programs from the elite to the bottom dwellers.
We'll start with those bottom dwellers in these power rankings this week. Number 14, Cincinnati. They remain winless. Tough times for Scott Satterfield.
And it's kind of crazy too because we're watching this thing go down, and you're going, well, Cincinnati's supposed to be a little bit okay, right? Everybody else seems to be stealing wins here and there, and they just cannot do it. And I don't know what to think about Cincinnati, and I don't know if you just look at it and go, nope, Coach Satterfield's just is just a strikeout on a coaching hire, or if they're just like going through a little bit what BYU is, which is we're in a big conference now, and we weren't absolutely totally up to snuff on the talent side of things or coaching side of things, and here we are. But 13, Baylor. Hey, good for Baylor. They got a little dub, or they got a little, they don't look as bad, I guess. Even though they don't, because what's their record right now, Mitch? I want to say that they're 3-6,
2-4 in Big 12.
And just look, if you had them down for being as bad as they are, we would have never thought it. But I don't know. You think about the four worst teams right now in the Big 12, and you go, I don't know. These are some bad football teams, 4 and 5 right now playing kind of really bad football. And so, Baylor at 13, kind of a no-brainer right there where they're supposed to be at. But they've dropped a couple spots, obviously, with the loss this week.
It's shocking how lack of a presence they have in the trenches, because that's been their bread and butter the past few years. It's non-existent in Waco this year. Number 12, UCF. They got their first Big 12 win. It was over one of the bottom dwellers, and that's Cincinnati, but still, a win's a win, and that was a big win for Cincinnati or UCF as they get one step closer to getting maybe into bowl eligibility at 4 and 5.
Yeah, what was weird about that was, John Reese Plumlee's just been not that great, right? And after the Oklahoma, it's like he showed up for that Oklahoma game, and then after that, it's just kind of been, I'm not that into it. But UCF getting their first win in conference, but still doesn't feel like it's a really good football team. Number 11, the BYU Cougars. Below the Houston Cougars, by the way, I'll add, and I don't think that that's wrong right now. There's a feeling right now that this team is not just low in the rankings, but also kind of maybe even plummeting further past that. And so the feeling of BYU and Cougar Nation, Mitch, and I can't wait for you guys on Cougar Nation on you guys are doing it later this week, right? And is that kind of maybe some people will cool off and not be as mad this next week? So
we'll actually have it Monday at noon. So
okay,
it will
good.
be.
So it'll be fresh on people's minds.
Yes.
People will be in the middle of the day taking their lunch break and then yelling at you guys, you and Matt, on Cougar Nation. It's going to be good.
We will be there for them to vent their frustrations, because there's a lot of frustration in Cougar Nation. And the other Cougar Nation is happy right now. That's number 10, Houston. as they take down Baylor, a longtime rival back in the day. First time they faced Houston in nearly 30 years. And I know Holgerson had this one circled because he was ticked at Baylor for backing out of a game during the COVID year. They wanted this one bad. There were some personal grudges, and they get it done in overtime. And Donovan Smith, man, he's had a knack. Like, you can say what you will about Houston, but in late game situations with game on the line, Donovan Smith's delivering some epic performances.
Yeah.
Hail Mary, and then a 2-point conversion to get it done against Baylor.
Number 9, the team I just had massive head scratcher on, maybe the weirdest team in all of the conference, is TCU. Sonny Dykes' team losing to Texas Tech and on a wild Thursday night. I'm sure they're not used to playing on Thursday nights, but boy, this TCU team is just absolutely all over the place this year, mostly all over the place in the losing category.
Do you think they become the next team or first team since Texas in 2009 to have a losing record the year after they go to the national title game? Do you think it's going to happen?
I mean, they're on their way. What are they, 4-5 now overall? Yeah. So, yeah, I think that that's definitely on the table. And at some point, you kind of go, as a team, you look around and go, well, we're 4-5. We're not great. We can play spoiler against some teams right now, but yeah, they don't have a lot to try to figure out. You know, they just keep falling flat every week. And if, it was the last time. No, it wasn't the last time they won was against BYU, was it? No. I'm getting that mixed up. I mean, it can't be. Well, maybe it was, actually. Now you look at it, they've ripped off 3 straight losses after beating BYU, like just pounding BYU. Number 8 on the list is Texas Tech, the team who handed them that loss. And, again, a head-scratcher, too, because you go, BYU beat those guys and they lose to those guys. Everybody does that, but that's the way it is in conference play. If you don't show up every week, you're going to be inconsistent and you're going to look funny because all the other teams are also you can be caught flat-footed and you have a chance every week to overcome. But, man, good for Joey McGuire because he's a little bit on the hot seat there, at least according to some of our friends who are down there in Lubbock.
Yeah, Texas Tech is a much different football team with Baron Morgan at quarterback. BYU would have probably had a far different look with Texas Tech had they faced him, and that was a big win for Texas Tech. And then they follow it up with a big recruiting win. They get one of the top quarterbacks in the 2024 recruiting cycle. So good things rolling this week for Texas Tech. Number 7, Iowa State. Suffered a tough setback against Kansas at home, but still, Iowa State is a good football team. They're going to go to a bowl game. Matt Campbell's done a really good job with this group to only lose by 7 points to Kansas. They had their opportunities. They fought back to get back in the game. Just a resilient group, and they continue to show that despite all the personnel losses that they've had this season.
Yeah, and don't be fooled by them losing that game. They're going to be favorites in this one against BYU coming to Provo almost assuredly. Number 6, West Virginia. The Mountaineers, of course, pounded BYU last night, and then you get yourself higher up in the rankings. Neil Brown, good for him. It was interesting this week. We talked to one of the guys from West Virginia, one of the beat writers, and we were like, hey, Neil Brown, he's firing it back up. You guys love this guy now. He goes, well, hold your horses. We don't really like him. He's winning, but we don't like him.
I'm glad you bring that up because I'm glad you bring that up because I really thought that people were going to kind of circle the wagons around this team because – with West Virginia, I mean, the pulse around Morgantown, they only had 50,000 people show up to BYU, West Virginia on an evening game in Morgantown, and a lot of the beat writers are saying, well, it's because they don't like Neil Brown. It's like, I mean, the guy's got the bowl eligibility already, 6 wins, and you got still everything in front of you. Like, what do you not like? That right. Team's looking pretty good right now. And
eclipsed last year's win total already with 3 more games left, so whatever. People are weird at some schools. They just decide they don't like a guy, and then they go, let's just wait for the time to be over for him. I don't think he fits in here. And you're like, dude, you're going to throw somebody away who's a decent coach, and then you're going to end up getting whoever. All right, next up, Kansas State. Now, I was on the Kansas State train. I really thought they were going to beat Texas this week. I didn't think Malik Moore had enough. I thought they were rolling with all of the with the wins they'd had, just absolutely blasting teams over the last couple of weeks, but come up short in overtime. Weird play call, by the way, at the end. I don't know what they were doing. Just kick the dang field goal to put the onus on Texas to try to win that thing. But anyway, they lose 33-30 in overtime at Texas, and there you go. There's your number 5 team on the power ranking.
We have a change in the top 2. They fall down from 2 last week now to 4. That's the Oklahoma Sooners. I think it's fitting, though, after 2 consecutive losses.
Yeah, I think it fits. And you know, you also have another team who is 7-2 and is headed the other direction. Number 3 on the list this week is Kansas. Good for them, man. Good for Lance Leipold, who, at the beginning of the year we didn't like because he just kept talking about how mature BYU was. But, I just think he's done a great job, and Kansas is having one of their better years. And so good for them. And it's not just like having a one-off better year either, I don't think, Mitch. I think that they're building something there in Lawrence.
They're going to be one of the top programs in the new Big 12. There's no doubt in my mind. As long as Leipold's there, they will be near the top. Number 2, a team that's always been near the top because of head coach Mike Gundy. That's Oklahoma State. They surge to number 2 after that big Bedlam win, and I think they deserve it. They got one of the best resumes in the conference right now. They're playing some of their best football. They check in at number 2.
I don't know how many weeks it was ago, Mitch, but they were number 14 at one point. Maybe it was
6
after
weeks
that.
ago.
Maybe it was after that after the University of Southern Alabama loss that they took at home by 3 touchdowns, and you're going, I don't even know who that team was that they played, the Jaguars. But, yeah, Mike Gundy doing what Mike Gundy does, and they've had the biggest bounce back this year. Kudos to them. Number 2 in our power rankings. And then, of course, number 1, your Texas Longhorns. Getting it done. I mean, you heard Coach Sarkisian, or we'll be able to hear Coach Sarkisian in our next segment, I think, talking about the resiliency of this team. And you know what? Like, that's the kind of grounded-out win that you need in seasons where you're going to have a special year. You have to win some of those close ones and eke some of them by as well, and that's what they're doing. So there are your power rankings. You can always go back, download the podcast, get more of those, and just kind of see where teams are every week right here on First and 12. Let's take another break. We'll come back. We do have our sound roundup next. Hear from Coach Sark, hear from Mike Gundy, and much more. I think we're going to even hear from Jake Retzlaff. So join us. More to go around the corner. It's First and 12.